It does suit us really well, that. I mean, I'm the one locking in the sharpshooter, obviously. I mean, I'm the technical one. I'm the submission action.
So you're saying I break out of it? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'll make sure you don't. Just kidding. Good afternoon, guys. Happy Saturday to you all. This is obviously the weekly Steel Chair podcast live on the weekly Armchair Sports Talk. Joining me is, of course, my ever-present, ever-reliable, more funnier than Vince, more calm than Hunter Hearst Helmsley, definitely not as boring as Stephanie McMahon. She is boring as hell. So if anything, I've got the perfect co-host. And it's one that I will stick with. Is, of course, I'm the world champion. It's my Intercontinental champion. This is Eilidh, of course, with another show, and different type of show, basically, because we saw it live in person. But we're not going to come to that. This, of course, as if you saw the thumbnail, I'll bring up one more time for the viewing pleasure. Of course, because it was my edit, so something different. But here we go, one more time.
You're on the graphics.
Absolutely. As you can see, it's the Clash at the Castle review. But as you can see underneath, I've put Carnage in AEW because, well, Carnage is everything. Carnage is important. And that's actually where we're going to start. Before I come to that, I am going to ask my co-host the ever important question. Not will you tap out or say I quit. The question I'm going to ask you is, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm all right. I mean, obviously, this Saturday is a lot quieter than the last Saturday that we had. But, obviously, we didn't see each other at the show because there were just so many people. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm doing well. I'm relaxed. It's obviously great to be back on the weekly Steel Chair. Great to be back with the Shotgun Saturday slot. Obviously, not quite the time that we would usually be on, but it is Shotgun Saturday. You've got no Premier League football, so you have no better place to be. You have no better place to be anyway, but especially today with the lack of Premier League action. So yeah, no, I'm doing well, and I'm looking forward to really sort of sinking our teeth in to what has been a chaotic week in the sport and in the profession that we all love. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. I'd much rather be watching football. Not in contrast to the podcast. I always enjoy our podcast, but I wish there was football on. I mean, but obviously in certain circumstances there isn't any, so I can't really say anything. I can't really do anything. But other than that, I'm good. Healthy and focused, relaxed. I had a nice time down south. Obviously, you were there. Obviously, I didn't see you or Greg, but
no,
even so, it was so jam packed.
Like, I maybe saw you, but there was just like 60,000 people or 62,000 people doesn't sound like a lot. You do have 62,000 people there. And then it was just like a sea of bodies, and it's like there was no chance of. We would have to be like next to each other for me to even notice you. Like, like it was just absolutely mental. But we'll come on to our Clash experiences later on in the show, obviously being there in person as opposed to All Out, which we watched behind the screens, and we took in what was definitely a show. And it seemed like the main event went down once the cameras went off. So, I mean, I've got up on my soapbox before about CM Punk on this show, and I've warned people, this is what CM Punk is like. To have that proven, was sort of like sometimes, to borrow something I heard from Jim Cornette, sometimes I'm Nostradamus, but I sometimes show myself being Nostradamus. What do you make of all the drama?
I've obviously, we both watch the shows and we are very vocal about it. We discuss it every week. When I saw what actually happened, and I've seen the reveal footage. Obviously, I've seen the post match, because obviously technically it's like post match. Because obviously the interviews. I've also heard the comments back and forth. Punk is 100% narcissist. It's clear as obvious. But I do find it very unfair that he is getting all the blame. Now, obviously, he has done, and I said loosely, he has done a load to deserve the blame. However, there's also a position of authority there that Tony Khan's just sitting there, let it be. Now he's drinking Heineken instead of doing his job. Like he should be involved. He should be shutting it down. You've got the executive vice presidents like the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, who we've spoken about before. We admire their ring work, but as human beings, not fans. I'm not a fan of them as human beings, but in terms of what they do in the ring, they are brilliant. They too, obviously, we've spoken about Hangman Page. Like, obviously, it stems from that promo, which he did not have permission to discuss. He went and done it on his own right. This was quite a while ago. It's built frustration. CM Punk's then decided, you know what? I'm now world champion again. I've got a little bit of leverage, or so he thought. It's come back to bite him in the ass. But in terms of them, obviously, they didn't bother to defend the situation. They've stuck by their friend instead. Tony Khan, obviously, because he's in bed with them, has decided to try and do things his way, which isn't going to work. And of course, Ace Steel's got involved. He's threw a chair at the Young Bucks as well. I can't remember which one, but he's launched one and it's hit them in the face. Clear as day, there is stemmed blame all round, but I think the vast majority of it as well, I don't know what you think about this, but the vast majority of the blame has to go to Tony Khan for just sitting there and actually not. He could have stopped it there and then. He could have said, we're not here to discuss this. Totally different time, wrong place, wrong time. We're here to talk about the fact that we just had an amazing pay-per-view where you've just won our organization's world title. Instead, you just put it in jeopardy.
Yeah.
And we've already seen Dynamite, so we know exactly what happened. And we'll come to Dynamite in a minute.
Yeah, absolutely. Tony Khan looks like a guy who's wearing a suit that's too big for him.
Yeah.
In terms of what he's doing, in terms of the management, it looks as though he is out of his depth. He was already burnt out. We were talking 3 weeks ago about Tony Khan's burnout and how long he's got left. And I was seeing a situation like this on the horizon, but I was thinking, probably more around New Year. Maybe we'll get all the way to Revolution before.
It would have some time behind it.
There'll be a bit of time. And with Punk coming back, if you keep the belt on Moxley, you could have a bit of stability.
Yeah.
If you put the belt back on Punk, he's a live wire. He's a wild card. You don't know what he's going to do. I think it was wholly unprofessional from CM Punk. I do think it was wholly unprofessional from Adam Page to do what he did. But CM Punk had already had his word on that. CM Punk had already buried Adam Page on TV. It had already happened. That should have been it. Tony Khan should have went, look, okay, this is a business of give and receipt. You've given him the receipt there, and you've buried him on camera pretty close to his hometown. I mean, I was watching the promo back yesterday, and he goes, your boy's from around these parts, and just buries Adam Page to a crowd that would usually be pretty pro-Hangman.
Exactly.
So CM Punk had already had his word on it. And then he was a petulant child in his post-match. And to pick out the very guy he knew, and there were people saying, oh, see, it was rehearsed, that means it was at work.
It was never.
It's not the case. He rehearsed it because CM Punk knew what he wanted to do. And CM Punk knew he was getting the world title back. He thought all the power would lie with him again. It opens up several weird questions, though. So, obviously, everyone's suspended. And we'll talk about Dynamite and what happened there.
Yep.
But then you're hearing reports that CM Punk's now out for 8 months. Now, if that's the same injury, or if it's the same sort of injury,
they've just wasted all out.
If Punk was coming back and you knew he was still hurt, why put the belt back on? You had a hot champion in Jon Moxley. Let's not get that twisted. Jon Moxley was so over as a world champion. And if you look at his promo on Dynamite, people didn't seem ready to, see a different champion. Those people would have still loved it. They wouldn't have booed Jon Moxley for beating CM Punk. And Jon Moxley wouldn't have gone and been that unprofessional in a post-match sort of press conference in the media scrum. So if they'd kept the belt on John Moxley, none of this happens. But then the other question is, if he wasn't that hurt before All Out, did John Moxley hurt him?
That's an interesting question. It's not something that I actually expected to be asked. I'm kind of glad that you did. But here's a question.
I'm not saying that's the sort of person John Moxley is. But
No, I
don't
don't
think
Moxley would.
Yeah.
I don't think
You
he would
don't put the
genuinely go out of
belt
his
on
way to hurt someone.
if you know they're going to be hurt again. So it's food for thought.
I think just a genuine character. I don't think John Moxley is that type of person. Although we have seen what he's done in New Japan, obviously when he won the United States title, he done all that. Like he went completely barbaric, but he done it within the limits of his character. He never purposely injured anybody. I don't think he purposely injured Punk, but I think maybe throughout that match, something must have, because obviously I've watched that match twice and I cannot see anything clear that Moxley hurt him. And that's from watching it. But then again, though, you can miss something in the slightest of circumstances. It can be so slight that you just look, oh, there you go, he's injured. But I'm going to say this now, I don't think he's legitimately injured.
So
I don't think
that's proper working to try and get around the suspension.
I think so. I think he was. I do believe he was definitely injured beforehand, like when he lost to Moxley prior on Dynamite. I think he was generally at that point injured. But All Out, the way he was moving in the ring is like just the fact of not just about the sheer movement, but his step as well. It was in tune. You don't just become suddenly injured overnight like that. And that's where I'm thinking that I think he's talking out of his ass. And I don't think he is injured. I think he's trying to cheat the system. But it doesn't matter anyway, because even though Tony Khan's been a bit of a clown lately, he did the right decision. He didn't just suspend one of them, he suspended all of them. And I think that was the right decision. What he shouldn't have done was, one, he's just ruined MJF again.
Yeah, we're going to come on to that. Yeah, the whole... But again, has Tony Khan ruined MJF? Or has CM Punk been selfish? That's the side of the camp I'm in.
Both.
Is it CM Punk?
I think it's both.
Selfishly. What should have happened, that post-match media scrum should not have been CM Punk. MJF should have been doing it.
Yeah, agreed.
Or MJF should have at least appeared in it. And if he refused to speak, then, you wouldn't get the sort of babyface reaction that he had. You'd once again be turning him heel. And I know Dynamite was in New York, and I know that New York's a bit funny about MJF sort of not booing him outright until he basically makes them boo him. And that's pretty much what he did. And it was masterful as ever from MJF, but no one's talking about him. The news, the week, this show has been dominated and will be dominated, at least the first half, by talk about CM Punk and the EVPs. And everyone should be talking about how great it is to have MJF back and what it means for the future. And MJF's doing his best, but he's about the fourth or fifth most important person on that show at the moment. And people 1 through 4 are suspended.
True. And that's generally where they draw the line, because look at the other key decisions they've had to do. The Young Bucks and Omega win the Trios Championship, and all of a sudden, 2 days later, boom, Death Triangle. It's, for me, the team that should have won it in the first place. I mean, I like Omega and I like Young Bucks in the ring, but the team I wanted for the beginning was Death Triangle. And I'm glad that we got that. But you're right, 1 through 4, for the foreseeable future, we don't know how long Tony Khan's actually going to keep him suspended. But on the back of it, he's removed 3 of their power positions, who shouldn't have had power in the first place. The minute Tony Khan and Nick Khan took more, the vast control of AEW, they should have put far more like-minded individuals in charge. Right now, in terms of, I know he's doing amazing work with the Blackpool Combat Club. I would have put William Regal straight in that role.
Yeah. People who have done that sort of thing before, and they've got them. But now those people are suspended too because we don't know what they did. You know,
The one I didn't understand though, mate,
suspended. Christopher Daniels is suspended.
Kawasaki as well. I don't
Obviously,
understand
Steel,
why
but
Daniels got.
he was
I don't know why Daniels got suspended. That was the
Nakazawa,
bit
yeah.
that caught me off guard. Like, I don't know
Head of
what
talent
Daniels did.
relations, I think it's just standard when that's your job.
I suppose. Just unfortunate. But it says it all that they are in such a deep loop. And I think the one thing they have to do is they have to get some form of stability in terms of management. I've said it before so many times that I'd like to see maybe a Cornette or a Jeff Jarrett run that place for Khan.
Cornette would tear it to the ground and rebuild it in his image, and I think it would be the best show. Certainly, it would at least in terms of entertainment compete with like Triple H's product. The problem is Jim Cornette isn't going to work with that, and he's done. And you've heard it enough. I listen to everything Jim Cornette says. I don't agree with everything he says, but I find him endlessly entertaining. I don't think he'd come back at all. I think you've got Triple H in the WWE, and I think the best that AEW can do is get someone who used to book for WWE. And then that gets tricky because you don't know what Bruce Pritchard did in all the Vince McMahon stuff. You obviously don't go to John Laurinaitis. You can't go to Vince himself, obviously. And anyone else involved. I mean, so who are you going to get? Fit Finlay? He's probably going to head back to WWE. You know, Triple H is rehiring these people like Jesse James, Road Dogg.
True.
If
He's
if Billy
replaced
Gunn
Jeff
retires, if Billy Gunn retires, he might end up back there. You
Jarrett.
know, there's possibilities. These bridges that were burned before, when Vince was there, it's caused an earthquake in the whole system. And now the people that we thought they could never go back to WWE can all of a sudden go back. And the people who can't go back to WWE don't have anywhere else to go. And I do think AEW could do worse because they could panic and cave and give it to either Eric Bischoff or Vince Russo.
Yeah, one of those I'd be okay with. The other one,
I'm guessing it would be Bischoff.
Yeah, I mean, funnily enough, I've actually spoken to Vince Russo once, and that was through Twitch. But he's a smart guy. I just think his timing is. I think Eric Bischoff is actually a smarter option. But then again, though, it depends because we know what he's like. I think
Eric Bischoff would be like, I've got the greatest angle for 2 weeks' time. Okay, how do we build on it?
No idea.
I did a great angle though. You know, like Eric Bischoff is fine as a general manager. Absolutely fine. If they want a general manager figure on AEW, give it to Eric Bischoff. 100%. If they want someone to actually run it for shoot, don't give it to Eric Bischoff. You need someone else. And these people are so thin on the ground and they can't just promote from within. WWE has that establishment. They were able to just promote from within or bring people back. You know, Kurt Angle's able to do his role when he wants to and he can go away again and he can do that. And, you know, I've spoken about people like Fit Finlay and you're speaking about people like Road Dogg coming back, everything like that. AEW can't do that because their setup was always Tony Khan. When he promoted other people from within, it's other people like Sanjay Dutt, and
he's got a brilliant mind though. I think if you get the best at Sanjay Dutt, you could bring in Jeff Jarrett. I think you could because he got replaced by Road Dogg.
Jeff Jarrett would be all right.
I think it'd be a good one personally. I think it would. I think another one, although it has been some time, you could look at the Andersons.
Oh,
they did. I know it's a bit of a long shot, but they did.
Is Arn still with the company?
Last time I checked, yeah.
I haven't seen him since Cody left. Actually,
yeah, he just hasn't been on screen. But I think it's purely circumstantial. I think there's so much to tell, and obviously it led to Dynamite, obviously, because we are going to spend another 10 minutes on this, and then we are going to move on to obviously Clash, because 1 hour show, 30 minutes each, because we're fairly genuine. It then leads to Dynamite, obviously. Good show. I have to admit, it was actually good. It was a good show. I was expecting something. I was
Dynamite
expecting
was
a
all
lot
right.
more.
I was
I was
really,
expecting.
I
I was expecting
was
heat.
shocked. I was shocked by the fact that Orange Cassidy was given the opportunity to win a championship, and Tony Khan decided not to put a championship on Orange Cassidy.
I
Because
wanted to know how long it would take before you mentioned
I
him.
said it at midnight UK time, when they said we're going to vacate the trios champions and we're going to decide new ones tonight. I said it before they were in the match. I went, they're going to pick the most inoffensive, ineffective white meat babyface that they can, and it will be the best friends in Orange Cassidy.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought for sure that they'd won that match. So when it did turn out to be Death Triangle, I was happy not to see a belt in. Well, I suppose it wouldn't be in Orange Cassidy's hands because he put his hands in his pockets.
It would just be on his waist.
Yeah, but I mean, it's cool to see Pac is the first ever
Double champion. Yeah.
Which, I mean, he is and he isn't, because like, obviously there's been people on the show that have held other companies' titles, but they mean like 2 AEW titles at the same time. Which, yeah, I mean, it's nice to see. It's the sort of thing you should have done with Adam Cole when you got Adam Cole in the Undisputed Era in, but you've chosen Pac, so good for
And there's
Pac.
nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that as well, because Pac is brilliant in and out of the ring. Like, he is brilliant, and he's got he has got probably the best all round tag team as well. Like, FTR are the best tag team in wrestling. I would say Lucha Brothers are the all round best. Like, from a clear all round perspective, I don't think anyone's on their level. Like, in my honest opinion, I don't think anyone else. I don't think anyone else is.
I think in terms of Lucha Brothers, the only teams that top them. I mean, you're obviously talking FTR, as you said,
and
maybe
the Briscoes.
The Briscoes, yeah. Well, every time I've seen the Briscoes, and I've not seen loads of them, and then obviously you're like most teams that are better than them or were better than them are disbanded now. Whereas the Lucha Brothers still thing. You look at like Gorillas of Destiny in New Japan, who, for my money, while the Revival were the Revival, God were the best tag team in the world. That was just how I felt about it. And the Usos have been on screen for so long that I'm just fed up of them. So I can't even, and we will come on to that, obviously.
We will be very shortly, yeah.
But yeah, I think there's very few teams that are better than Lucha Brothers. I think it's weird to think of the dynamic because you wonder what Pac and the Lucha Brothers talk about. Or where Jordy met his two Mexican friends. But I mean, the dynamic's a bit weird from that, but they don't look horribly out of place as a trio.
They have good chemistry in the ring. Like, they've got good chemistry with each other.
Those spots, the closing spot was very clean. Very clean.
That makes you wonder, like, just how long they've been working together as well. Like, because that was perfect. Because obviously they face each other in singles matches as well, but pure tag team wrestling, and then in a trio tag, it's just
Death Triangle
point after point.
The longest running stable without a split.
Yeah.
Because like
Wardlow didn't last
during the pandemic because Excalibur was in it, and then they went, "That's stupid. Let's not have a commentator in a stable." And then they
still going.
Which again, AEW. But yeah,
Madness.
so I mean, the stable's been together for a long time, and clearly people like it. And now they've got the belts, and we'll see where they go. And it's not ideal that they've already had to crown a second ever champion when they weren't planning on it, and when the Elite were probably just planning to use the trios belts as a vanity project and just like, look how big we are and distract everyone from FTR being the best tag team in the world. But that hasn't worked out because now they're suspended, and hopefully we'll see more FTR on television. And
we'll see a lot of trios as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would have been a better match to just have FTR against Motor City Machine Guns at the pay-per-view, but I still didn't hate the 6-man. I thought it was one of the stronger matches of the night. But yeah, I mean, we'll see where it goes in terms of the trios titles. I think FTR need a better partner. Obviously, Punk's gone for a
And
long
Wardlow's
time.
better as a single.
Wardlow's better as a single. I don't know who, because obviously they've had people like Silas Young before, who fits the dynamic, but I don't think he goes and does that.
What about Miro?
Well, he's probably going to leave.
I suppose, but in the event that he might not leave, he might stick around.
Yeah. I don't know. You got to think sort of like same dynamic. The sort of guy you could picture FTR sort of actually hanging out with, because you did sort of feel that with CM.
Yeah.
You did sort of. I mean, what would be great and also horrible would be if Edge went and did it. Because obviously we don't want to see Edge in AEW, but Edge and FTR is like the perfect match.
Or Randy Orton randomly turns up.
Or Randy Orton, yeah, just that sort of fundamental wrestler. But there's not that many left on the independent scene because they all want to be. Josh Alexander, maybe.
Could work. He's a brilliant Impact World Champion. He's probably the best working world champion out of all the promotions. I think he is. I think he's by a mile. Unless Bryan Danielson somehow wins this tournament, although he probably won't.
Danielson would be brilliant. But at the same time, I think he's just there doing his own thing. And
unless you put FTR inside Blackpool Combat Club, then you've got something.
Yeah. I don't know, because Blackpool Combat Club would have to change all this like unscripted violence sort of stuff, and basically they'd have to kick Moxley out to let FTR in, and then it would make sense. But at the same time, then Moxley's out of Blackpool Combat Club. I think that group's a lot weaker without John Moxley, because he is probably, I mean, especially now that Punk's gone, he's probably the most over with the fans. One of his best promos this week, actually, Mr. Moxley.
That was a phenomenal promo.
Like I've said on the show, I've been annoyed at his whole, like, and I'm going to drink your blood and I'm going to bite this part of you and everything like that. And but see him just going like a passionate sort of, I'm up against it. I'm the underdog here, but I'm going to do it. And I'm going to win, and I'm going to get that title back. I'm going to get my title back. You're like, yeah, that was a really
believable.
Good promo.
I think he will win. I think he will win the tournament. I think Jericho will beat Danielson. Again? And I think he will. Yeah, I think Jericho will make Danielson tap out. Like I genuinely think you'll see something different. You'll see Danielson tap out, and then I think you'll see in the final. God forbid they actually put. If they put Sammy Guevara in that flaming semi-final, then it's worthless. I want to see Mox play. I want to see Mox go up against a proper opposition. I know this might sound crazy, but I want Babyface versus Babyface in semi-final. I want Darby Allin versus Moxley.
Darby Allin needed more wins before they were going to put him in this tournament.
Should have done, but they didn't, and that's where
all they've done is feed him to people. They fed him to Brody King.
Of all people as well.
Before that, on the pay-per-view, he lost Kyle O'Reilly, who I'm guessing seriously hurt. So again, best wishes to Kyle. Oliveira seemed to be on the shelf, except for Fish, who's permanently gone. And then he challenged CM Punk to a fight, which, I mean, I'd like to see it. But what did you make of the Bobby Fish comments that he basically said, I'm a mixed martial artist, but I've done the honourable thing in this business and I've laid down for you. He was really sort of open with comments like that. Totally stripped kayfabe away entirely and just went, look, I did the job for CM Punk, and he was a dick about it. I mean, it's not surprising to hear, but...
I mean, I liked it because one thing that I liked about his comments was when he mocked the... What's up, Ravi? Hope you're doing well. He's obviously in the live chat. The one thing I liked, and this is one thing that stood out for me that was absolutely brilliant, was when he referred to the movesets. And he's basically just whitewashed CM Punk's moveset because he says it's fake MMA and all that. You don't know what you're doing, whereas I am legit. And I'm like, that. I like that. I like the fact that because kayfabe's been dead for years. I like the fact they stripped away. And Bobby Fish went, you know what? Let's just go. Let's just go for it. And that's what he's done. And that is honestly the best perspective you can get, because he had it last night as well on SmackDown. Natalia Neidhart's tweet is an inadvertent dig towards CM Punk as well.
But Natalia's going to dig at anything because she's wholly irrelevant. And she looks
she's craving attention because nobody wants to buy her merchandise.
She's always craving attention. Look at her recent Twitter activity. You know, we obviously had that stuff where she was calling Will Ospreay a cat.
It's true. We'll come to this very shortly, my friend. We'll come to that very shortly.
That's a really good segue, Ravi. If you just save it for a minute or two, we will jump into talking.
Now, I appreciate that. I mean, short hair AJ Styles, 2007, 2009, quality. But I wouldn't mind some of that long hair. I wouldn't mind some of that, before it got ridiculously long, like after they came in from New Japan, like up to 2016, normal hair
So
length.
you mean like as soon as he started that sort of look?
Literally when he won the world title the second time.
Yeah. Do you think? Because I watched NXT 2.0 this week.
Brilliant show.
Yeah, I just think that show needs more people like Bobby Fish.
Mm-hmm.
It needs people that have the credit but aren't necessarily main eventers elsewhere. I don't want them to turn around tomorrow and say, okay, AJ Styles and Finn Balor and Kevin Owens and this guy and that guy and this guy and that guy, you're all back on NXT, or you're all on NXT.
They should put Ciampa Gargano back on NXT. Not because they don't deserve to be on the main roster, because they do.
Mrs. Me. No.
Nah, that's Dexter Lumis.
Well, it's going to be.
But in retrospect, I would have them back on NXT, and it's not because they don't deserve to be on the main roster. It's they build it so well. That's why I think they should be there. Gerard, thanks for reminding me, of course, because we'll be coming to that very shortly. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you, and I can tell you for one, I was not delighted because I was shouting "F you, Roman."
I was shouting every sort of every.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So
wanker was nice.
Just the final word, basically. If you're going to take a minute to sum up the AEW situation, we think Tony Khan should have done better. We think it's really exposed him, or at least I'll let you say your minute sort of thing. I think it's really exposed him.
No,
it's
just going to be full year.
AEW as this sort of part-time, not really serious company. They're not that serious about their business, especially because all of this got out as well. Like it was handled. I want to give marks to Chris Jericho, which is weird, but I thought Chris Jericho was really professional about it. I think everyone who's been suspended deserves to be suspended. I warned you all about CM Punk and the sort of person that he is, and it's come to fruition, and I will be as cocky as I like about it. But we're in this new point with AEW, and I want to see someone, obviously MJF's the obvious one, but I want to see people take up the mantle. And
I'm just putting this on the screen because obviously this matters. So 1 second. This matters, so I'm just doing this. Don't worry, your name will return. I'm just doing this.
Damn right I was. But yeah, I hope MJF and other people can take up the mantle that CM Punk and the Elite have left behind. And maybe the company's going to be stronger without them, just in terms of like a general company, a general structure. And if that's the case, I'm hearing Young Bucks put sort of a feeling email or approach to WWE. So if that's
they've put feelers out.
Let the Elite go. Let CM Punk go back to his couch because he doesn't need this. He doesn't need the fans. It's all been a lie from CM Punk. But
I'd rather his wife return.
He believed it. So anything to add, Reece, before we move on?
Nope, nothing from me. Nothing from me. I've got my 10 quid's worth in already. That's how much Punk's worth. 10 quid. Frankly, as much as I liked him as a child, right now I just generally can't be arsed with him. I just can't. I don't like his attitude, really. I mean, as much as I like wrestling, I don't like disingenuine human beings, and he's one of them.
And that's just Punk in a nutshell. Ravi's saying he's enjoying AEW more than WWE these days. I get that.
Impact.
I definitely get it in terms of I don't know. As I've said, I think before, AEW is one of those shows that I watch because the good stuff's really good, but the bad stuff's so bad it's funny.
Yeah, you can't help but
WWE,
laugh.
when it's good, is the best, and we're about to talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
WWE, when it's bad, isn't funny because it's still professionals doing things. So when there's
Yeah.
just like a really sort of lame comedy skit, you're like, that's just not funny. It's not like it's being poorly presented.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't even really enjoy it from that point of view. But we're not going to be very negative about WWE at all for the next however long we chat about it, because
Half
we're
an
going to
hour.
talk. Yeah, we're going to talk about Clash at the Castle in Cardiff. Obviously, I stayed in Cardiff. There are nicer cities, but the people were all lovely. I think if we just take all the people out of Cardiff and move them somewhere nicer, it would be good. Staying in sort
Swansea.
of I've not actually seen it, to be fair.
I just thought I would
Cardiff's
get
like the
one
first
type in.
actual city I've seen of Wales. I think I've been to Wrexham maybe once, but I honestly
Mm-hmm.
don't know. But yeah, I mean, the city was very busy, of course, and it was a mess, and I was staying in like a budget hotel and that. But you know, I looked past all of that because what a Clash was.
Mm-hmm. It was perfect. And before we get to that, I'm just going to say in respect to this, now that Shawn Michaels is the executive vice president, I do believe it will get better. I've liked NXT 2.0 recently. It's been a lot better in terms of management under Shawn Michaels. It's been so much more entertaining. It's been more fluid in terms of structure. It's been more fluid in terms of creative output, but also it's given more. So one thing that hasn't happened recently with AEW, and it's the main roster as well. NXT for the past month and a half, maybe 2 months, and you've seen it at Worlds Collide, has allowed storyline to completely develop. And not just completely develop, but develop in flux. And it has little tangents in it, and it's great. Like Worlds Collide, you had not just one unified title match, you had several. And I think that's a great reflection. This has taken it to the next level, because obviously NXT Europe is about to happen. This is perfect timing. Braun Breaker, for me, as much as I love Tyler Bate, I thought Tyler Bate put up a very good showing as NXT UK champion. The correct guy won it for me. Braun Breaker should be, right now, the man to be the overall world champion. Mandy Rose, for all the good and the bad that she is, like there is some parts to her that really is very negative. As a champion, past 3-4 months, she's been far better than maybe I've given her credit for, and I think that's something I need to give her a little bit of credit for. She's actually been far better. The tag title scene is stronger, but it stems purely from upstairs and behind the scenes. They're doing it far better than they did, and it's great that Vince is gone in that way, because if he was still there, not a chance would any of these guys be thriving right now. Braun Baker would probably be on the main roster being shoved about like Karrion Kross was, which would be very horrible for a man who is the son of Rick Steiner and obviously the nephew of Scott. It'd be horrible to witness that, because I absolutely adore Braun Breaker. He's brilliant. But it's great to see that men, women, the tag titles and the singles, the tag titles, all of that, even the stables are all getting proper time considering the current regime. So yes, I'm fully aware, and I do think you should watch NXT 2.0, Gerard. I really do think you should go back and watch some of it over the past couple of months. I really do, because it's been brilliant. And if you get a chance, watch Worlds Collide. Probably the best pay-per-view of the summer. And I love Clash. I've got nothing against Clash, by the way. It's not
Can
against.
you see Mandy turning on Toxic Attraction? Ravi's asking.
Good,
Depends.
I was about to actually float that.
Toxic Attraction.
I was actually just about to float that, funnily enough, before Ravi got in there. I would have Toxic Attraction turn on Mandy Rose.
Right.
And get somebody coming as a new leader that could potentially usurp her.
Okay,
but
so
the question
you
is,
think Mandy Rose as a face would work? Do you think people are ready? Do you Mandy Rose?
I don't know if she's ready, but when she was a babyface before, She was actually quite good as a babyface. She was
I've got
actually
it.
good.
Bring Otis back.
No, I don't want her to go back to Chubby Pillar. No, I do not want to see her reunited with Chubby Pillar. What I want to see, though, is I'd like to see some, like, for example, that triple threat had very good elements. I think you could take either of those two. On that respect, though, you could. You don't have to have the former UK champion, be the new leader of Toxic Attraction, but what you can do is build up a swerve. And I think they certainly could get something out of that. My only problem is timing. How do you pull it off? And I think that's something you need to look at.
Yeah, Jared Kennedy's got an interesting point there. I think, as I was saying, the problem is with NXT 2.0 is that there's too many people that have absolutely no name behind them. And this is why they need people like Bobby Fish, and they needed people like when he was
Roderick
there.
Strong more.
Before they called a certain someone up at Clash at the Castle, he was there because they'd seen him for a while. But you needed your people to stay there, and you need people to come back to things like Apollo Crews being back there. You just need names that people sort of recognize, because then you're like, these people are back. And when Dolph Ziggler had one of the greatest runs in NXT when he was back on the NXT 2.0. His run with that was brilliant, and he was great as the champion, and it was proper shocking. You were like, huh? He just won the NXT title. Dolph Ziggler won the NXT title. You're just like, this is really quite odd. But they need more of that, and they need more people who can either bounce back between Raw, SmackDown, NXT, so go from main roster back down to NXT and just do both, or they need to bring these people in who want out of AEW and put them on NXT and give them the sort of name credit that they're lacking. Because there's some matches on NXT where I just roll my eyes. It's not because I don't performers, but it's because I have no reason to care about he does. I have no reason to care about these two people I've barely seen, and there's no credit they've built up to me. So Cora Jade's former tag team partner, that's all she's known as to me. I couldn't even tell your name right now, because there's just little things like that where you're like, I don't know you, I'm sorry. And it needs more faces into it.
Yeah.
People at least slightly recognise. That's why I think Bobby Fish should go and do it. I think
I agree that it does need. I agree that they do need more names, but I still look at who you do recognise, and they do build up a good roster. I think in terms of recognisable, there is some good names there. And I think the work has been better, but I do get your point. It's just about investment and timing. Will they get it? I also think the time frame of NXT 2.0. This may sound crazy because I've complained a lot about 3-hour Raw, but I want to see NXT 2.0 get an extra hour. I want to see them get an extra hour, or even an extra 45, or even an extra 45 minutes. Like a 90-minute NXT 2.0 is perfect.
Yeah,
I think you need, just for giving people more chance to build themselves. Because look at how
when it was just 1 hour was actually really strong.
Oh, it was. But I think you could get something from an addition. I think you could get something more from an additional hour. It just really does. It just depends how you do it. Can Nikki Lyons make to Raw or SmackDown? I hope she makes it to nowhere. I'm going to say this now. I don't rate Nikki Lyons at all. I don't like. I can see that she's got a good amateur background, but other than that, I don't take any liking to her. I don't find her entertaining. I don't find her good enough in the ring. At times, I think she's quite sluggish. But people seem to like her. And that's cool. That they're entitled to like her. It's like me with my Liv Morgan agenda right now.
But you may have that sort of. We'll come on to that. We may have that sort of thing again, where it's like, there's just that person where you're like, yeah, I don't quite get you, but like it's fine. I mean, it's like a less extreme thing of the Orange Cassidy, because everyone seems to absolutely love Orange Cassidy, and I really hate him. So Braun Strowman's back. So we're coming on to that. So
great question.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll talk about the value in the main event scene when we talk about the main event Clash. So main talking points when we come on to Clash then.
Mm-hmm.
So, firstly, I think it was Ravi who mentioned the...
Spot on, mate. Spot on.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love Vera back. So Ravi mentioned, how do you put the belts all on Damage Control?
Quite a good, quick question. And I think the start of it is it's got to be done through flux. It's got to be done completely transparent, but it's got to be done over time. I said it when they won the titles that Raquel and Eilidh are going to be absolutely boring. And so far, I have not been wrong once. Because they have been boring. Flatter than a pancake.
I've had them 2 weeks, maybe. Like,
they're boring.
I know, but I think you've been very quick on the draw with that.
I also said it before they even announced they were getting to the final as well.
Yeah, I get that, but like, you know, if you're going to give someone the chance to hold a title, not a complete joke. Let's see what happens when they can get a bit fired up. The problem is there's still no like named tag team they can fight.
It's just the problem with them though is when you watch it, 90% of the matches, it's like watching a handicap match. Because Eilidh just goes and disappears for the half of the match, and it's just Raquel on her own. That I don't find that entertaining. I don't like that from a tag team. As a fan of tag team wrestling, I find that quite stupid. I find it quite boring. I find it quite unintelligent, creative work as well. I think if you're going to have tag team champions, it's champions that actually work as a tag team. I don't think they work well, personally. I don't think they work well. I think the dynamics there. I think you're also about to lose another tag team. You're about to lose Piper Niven, because I'm refusing to call her that stupid gimmick she's got, and Nikki ASH because she threw a mask at her. She threw a mask at her as well. So I think you're going to lose that tag team very shortly, which is kind of a good thing.
Yeah, but this is the problem. We don't have these established tag teams. The last established tag team in the WWE,
Iconics.
They're definitely a team. It's the Iconics. And every other team was sort of like, you two just kind of sort of work. You know? Kind of sort of wrestle together for a year, and then when you break up, you can fight each other once on Raw, and that'll be the end of it. And that's how every women's tag team. I would have scrapped it. I would have just kept it scrapped. They can't do it. They don't have the talent to do it either.
And now as well,
can join together and create a compelling women's tag team division alongside having enough contenders to keep the singles stuff going. Sasha Banks was right in that sense, but if she won the tag belts, she would just be put into singles matches. But what do you want, Sasha? You know, do you want to be feuding with the same two people for the whole year? Because we've had women's tag team champions that have complained about that before as well. You know, we're working with this person. Okay, who's your next opponent? Fighting this person. Remember when Raquel Gonzalez was monster in NXT?
She was a brilliant monster heel. She was a brilliant heel.
That was like that story where her and Rhea Ripley ended up having the same tattoo.
Yeah.
And it was like just a tiny little detail like that. You're like, I couldn't see that coming. But yeah, in terms of women's tag teams, I mean, have one set of belt if you're going to do it, and you kind of need to at this point, because if you go back, you'll get such backlash because people will be calling it, you know, in the way and everything like that. And I disagree with that. I think if something isn't working, it just shouldn't happen.
No, I agree with you. I agree.
But scrap the NXT ones then. Keep just the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. They go between all three shows, and you establish teams that actually work together, that commit to being tag teams and going for the tag team belts, and not just teams where all of a sudden one person gets stars in their eyes and goes for a singles title, you know, or because they have nothing for them to do. That's why I would scrap those belts. So to me, it doesn't matter really who wins them. And that's the real problem. They would have to bring in 10 new women who were all in 5 new teams, but who also had the name credibility that you'd actually care, could actually work well together, create compelling storylines, and you'd have to do all of that, keep it all together, not do anything stupid like split anything up, and keep the singles scenes as strong as they are. And I just don't see how you do it. And if Damage Control's the start of making established tag teams that stay around for years, and we're looking back in 2026 and going, well, this is now the 4th year of Io Sky teaming with Dakota Kai. But if I tell you that now, obviously you know how long the Street Profits have been a thing. You know how long the Usos have been a thing. That's a bit different because they're family. But you even know how long, as I said, the Street Profits. Can you see a women's tag team going that long before WWE gets bored, splits them up, and they feud? It just doesn't happen. Even in NXT, Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai, that was all a storyline.
It's true.
Lasted under a year. You know, like I don't think they've got the.
I think you're right. I think they have to bring in a more established roster for that. But what they also need to do as well is they need to have a woman run the women's division, like someone who's actually dedicated to it. I don't know if they've got anyone dedicated to actually run the division. I think Beth Phoenix would be brilliant for that role. She's been there behind the scenes. I think she'd be great to run the division. Give her complete oversight. Get people in amongst them. Let them get more established names. See what they can come up from it. Take the time and investment because they've already invested so much into the singles route, and the singles route right now is very strong. But the tags, you're right. It's until they've got establishment there, it's weak. And funnily enough, we are going to come onto the back of that because also Damage Control were the opening match. Because nobody really cares about the pre-show match, which we actually got, which was funny.
The pre-show match was, just a nice little bit of fun. I didn't realize we were getting pre-show sort of.
Me neither. I caught me off guard.
So when music started playing, you were like, "Oh, we are getting a pre-show. All right, this is going to be fun," and it was. And the right team won, and Madcap's more over than a babyface as a babyface in person than on TV, where I don't really get it. But he's nice and hyped up, and he's just sort of happy to be there, and that's the sort of thing you want for a underneath or sort of mid-card babyface. So the right team won. Theory got egg on his face, not for the first and only time for the first, but not for the only time that night. So then the first match, Damage Control up against the Franken trio of Asuka, Alexa Bliss, and Bianca Belair, the Raw Women's Champion, of course. I think we said in the preview it was going to be a fun match.
We were right.
And it was. I think I said with it. And it did, because it was sort of that high energy, welcome to the show. People would usually think, all right, well, if it's high energy and opening the show, the baby faces are going over. Damage Control couldn't lose that match.
And we had Damage Control to win.
We did indeed. Both of us said that. And I thought it was a lot of fun. We obviously have to talk about Bayley. Absolute MVP. I knew the crowd were going to chant it, but I didn't know how quickly or how loud that was going to be. When you watch it back on the network, it's absolutely crazy. I mean, it's crazy being there live, and you see her on like the big screen they had above the ring, and she's like putting her hands in her ears. She's like, "No, stop!" And like she doesn't want to be.
It's that temptation. Is brilliant. It's brilliant how she's done it. But I like the subtle thing she did as well. Every time they chanted "We want Bayley" and all that, she immediately tagged herself in, then she tagged herself out. She's playing crowd.
She tagged in, so the crowd would go, "Yeah," and then she just tagged straight back out again. You're like, "Boo!" It's that sort of thing.
Savage Talk Wrestling. I'll be honest, I've never listened to him. I'll need to give him a listen. He's never wanted. It's not out of disrespect or nothing, but he's never been recommended to me, so I didn't know there was someone called that. But I'll take a look after the show and I'll listen. You never know; it might be a good 1 hour podcast. We can just chat. Like who knows? Like me and Eilidh, of course, we can certainly do that.
Yeah.
But obviously, that's something me and Eilidh would like to do. We would like to discuss more options with people because we would love to get like different points of view. But I do like our current dynamic as well, like how things are going. But in terms of like back to like the whole Bayley saga, which will then take forward, because we're not going to go through we can't just go through every match one by one in complete detail, but what we will do is just like say like, which parts of the matches we actually did enjoy. For me, obviously, Bailey was a standout, and I liked the overall work of all 6 of them. I thought their work was perfect. I thought the spots were built really well, which then obviously leads to the first men's match.
You don't sound that pleased.
It's not that I'm not pleased. It's I think they had their moments, throughout the night where maybe they could have changed things a little bit, But there was one perfect men's match the entire night. There was one perfect match.
Okay, I'm hoping we're going to say the same thing.
Well, the perfect match was Gunther versus Sheamus.
100%. I mean,
that was perfect.
I don't often agree with Dave Meltzer. Or I should say Dave Meltzer doesn't often agree with me because we all know I've got more influence than that guy. Who's he? But it's a shotgun Saturday. I'm firing shots. Anyway, no, I thought this match was absolutely tremendous. It's probably my match of the year. It was so great. And we said it was going to be 2 big guys kicking 10 bells of crap out each other. And that's exactly what they did. But they kept it interesting. It wasn't like when Suzuki fights someone and it's just like, chop me. And it's like, oh, chop. And then it's like, well, now I'll chop you. Because they kept it moving. Because ultimately, it was a fight. It was a brawl. And once again, they do the nice bit where the brawl happens and
they just stand there.
The other 2 chase the other 2 out. I was wearing an Imperium t-shirt to the show, so I either made it happen or I called it, and you can decide which one. But Imperium happened. I popped when Giovanni was there, the former Fabian Eichner. And of course, you get Imperium. I mean, Gunther has new music, but I think that was important because he would have got a face reaction if he came out to the usual symphony that we're so used to. So I think that was a good call on the music. Sheamus was so over all the time. But at the same time, it was like I sided with Sheamus with the chanting, but I honestly couldn't decide who I wanted to win. Because on the one point, it's like Gunther's such a star. He's so good. He's such a natural. And he is just excellent.
Yeah.
Whereas Sheamus, it was like this, not really hometown, not even really home country, because he's Irish, but he's certainly closer to home. And it was that warmth of support and that real sort of build-up of, we want the guy who's almost our guy to win this.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, of course, not to be, but Sheamus gave it absolutely everything. And, if that's sort of the last thing that he's doing, he's really ended his career on a high.
Oh, massively. And just like every subtle moment as well. I was surrounded by a few guys, like just randomly chatting, obviously. And I said for a joke, after this match, do you think Sheamus is going to invest in Vaseline? Because it just felt right. And it's just like a subtle moment because just how good it was. But then we get to, my opinion, the worst match of the night.
It was a tough spot to be in. I'm gonna defend my girl here as far as the podcast goes, because apparently I'm some huge Liv Morgan stan or whatever. Even though I didn't know that she had some kind of hive going on, but I have defended Liv Morgan before. I think she's come on leaps and bounds. I think she was in a really tough spot. Yeah, right. I think they were in a very tough spot. Any match following that. But I think also Triple H knew. I think he knew it's like when these two, when Sheamus and Gunther get to have their match, this is going to be fireworks in the ring.
Make or break.
So right after that, you need to put something on. Talking about the hive. I'm about to defend Liv Morgan. Don't worry. It was a tough spot for anyone to be in. And at least they didn't hang around.
Yeah.
They did it quickly. The right person won. I don't care how weak Liv Morgan's title reign's been. You don't just turn around and give it to Shayna Baszler.
She was better this time than she was her first 2 matches. I'll give her some credit, even though her performance was flat. Both of them were flat. Like Morgan's movement was awful. Shayna was slower than ice turning. But I think if you put them in a different, I think if you put them out first, you might have got something better out of them. I just think they were just unfortunate by the spotlight, the timing they were in, but also like both of them just didn't seem. I think the situation and the whole star power behind it just wasn't there. I felt sorry for them both. So I was looking forward to that one. I was hoping she would have won, obviously, but Morgan did come out so much better as champion, and I've liked the fact how it then transpired. Yep, that works. That does work. that definitely is relevant.
That's a nice one.
It's very true. On the flip side of it, though, I don't have a problem with her not retaining the title because I said if she wins this one, I want to see her be booked better as champion, and she looks so much more entertaining on SmackDown as well. So it's good to see that it's changed recently for the benefit of her.
How much of that's down to Ronda, though? So you know how sometimes they say like it's to do with who you're working with. You know, at the same time, you've got to think if she's more compelling to you now, you've got to think it's because they're building up to a match with Ronda Rousey, a match that you genuinely feel she can lose, than Shayna Baszler, where I just thought, you know,
I think she could still lose to Baszler.
nice
but I don't
little
think
routine title defense. Yeah. I don't think Liv Morgan's going to lose the belt to Shayna Baszler, whereas with Ronda Rousey, it's like, well, it depends what her contract says. Because if her contract says she's there for another year, she's going to take the Women's Championship because they'd much rather have Ronda Rousey in a headline WrestleMania match than Liv Morgan, especially in Hollywood.
Which is both understandable and unfair. Like it's understandable because it's star quality, but it's unfair that it's a technical part timer because she technically is part time. Than moving, but that's just how it is. That's just how it is. But Morgan did at least look stronger. To answer your question, Ravi, every single thing when I've tried to go, when I was in Wales, sold out. I couldn't get anything. I was in Cardiff at 12 o'clock on the Saturday. I went in early from Bristol and I couldn't get anything. All I got was a flaming program.
We went and looked in the shop. I went and looked, and there was Tyson Fury. Half the stuff had Union Jacks on it, so no thanks. And then the other stuff, you're like, it's to do with Wales, or like there was Roman Reigns stuff. It's like, well, I don't really like Roman, as we'll come on to.
One thing that annoyed me as well is after the show, you had a guy handing out Clash at the take. It was like an NXT takeover shirt from like 3 years ago, trying to pass off as the current shirt. I was like, mate, get to hell. Because like CX had a big gold belt as well on display, and I was like, how much? I was like, how much for it? Because I really want this. And they went, it's not for sale. I was like, what's the point in showing it then? You're just going to annoy people.
Yeah.
And then I left out of rage. We are gonna move on because we've got a couple of matches. Then we're gonna wrap it up, but because it's been a great show. The next match, obviously, it was part of the result that we called.
Yeah.
But we got the spot we wanted.
Yeah, but then we got the winner wrong.
Yeah, I suppose.
We got the winner wrong. There's no I suppose about it. We said Judgment Day.
Yeah, we did. We wanted.
Judgment Day did not win. Judgment Day didn't even they lost clean.
But Judgment Day won in the end.
They did, but what I'm saying is, in a prediction,
they lost the match.
Test, we didn't get that. Neither of us got that point.
Not that any of us really. Not that any of us care though.
Did you sing?
Question is, what did I sing to?
Oh, come on. Edge's entrance.
No,
you are kidding.
I am.
Right. Come on. BT Sport put that video up. Like, they were so quick. There were so few videos that they put up on YouTube afterwards, but you couldn't hide from the video of everyone singing Metalingus as Edge enters. It's one of the best moments I've had at any wrestling show, at any show.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Just possibly ever. It was just that high energy, being around all those wrestling fans who all knew the words without them tweeting it, didn't like WWE tweeting the words out afterwards, because I thought it said a lot that people just knew Edge's entrance theme as opposed to the Chris Jericho one where they had to tweet the lyrics first. And everyone is just belting this legendary song out for this legendary wrestler who is feeding off every single one of our voices.
Yeah.
And it's like Edge knew he was going to feel the love in the UK, but he was probably the second most over person on the card, which sucks for Sheamus because he was really sort of, the adopted
by far the biggest pop though was Edge.
Edge was probably the second most over person in Cardiff, just for the fact that I suppose the UK crowd were like, well, Edge is retired. Like, as everyone was thinking, Edge is retired, we're not going to see him again. When Edge comes back, you're like, we get to see Edge on TV again. And then it's like, when WWE are coming to Cardiff, we're going to get to see Edge live.
Yeah. I hope this never happens.
It would make sense, but
hope not. I'd rather have mild, numbingly toothache than watch Anthony Joshua in a ring. That's all I'm gonna say in the WWE ring. I just
maybe him and Tyson Fury could be a team.
That would be funny.
Try and bring back the Brawl for All.
Oh, that'd be quality. That would be. Yeah, we'll come to that as another show for match types we'd like to see come back.
I don't think anyone wants to see that. But yeah, so in terms of the match itself, of course, I mean, we knew it was going to be solid action because this is WWE, and you get mostly solid action until Natalia's in the ring. But I just really don't like Natalya. I'm sorry. But yeah, so as far as the match between Judgment Day and Rey and Edge, it was really good. Obviously, really tidy. You like little spots like Damian Priest sort of falling on the barricade, and Rhea Ripley looking at him, sort of like, oh, "What are you doing?" It was sort of like Rhea Ripley was the mum, and she had two misbehaving sons.
Yeah,
like, what are you two doing? She's like, Rhea Ripley is brilliant. Damian Priest sort of with a heavy breathing. He's like. Really quite nice to see. And then, of course, Dominic Mysterio was, as the crowd chanted at him, a wanker. So, what did you make of the turn? I mean, we did say it was going to happen, but
I thought it was absolutely. I like the fact that they done the exact same heel turn that Eddie Guerrero did in 2005 with a clothesline. I like that, but I also like the fact that they done a proper you had to have a low blow in there. Like, you can't not turn heel without the use of the low blow.
It's a heel turn in the year 2022. You cannot be a heel without a low blow.
Did you notice as well, funnily enough?
Ask Christian, ask anyone.
Did you notice as well, funnily enough, on Raw? Obviously, in the pay-per-view, his hair was just brown. There was nothing else. But then you get to Raw, and it's all jet black. Mm-hmm. It's like, I was like, all right, kid, calm down. You're not 2000 Eddie Guerrero.
But he's just leaning into it. As I said, he's just going to lean into it. I wouldn't be surprised if he starts going by Dominic Guerrero.
I hope he does. I think it'd be brilliant.
It wouldn't shock me.
It'd be good for the heel turn. Yeah, he did say that Top Gear as well. He did mention that with Goldberg. I really just don't want him there. But I did like how they done it, though, the low blow, and obviously he just stood there with Edge on his knees, and he's just standing right in front of him. And then Mysterio was trying to, obviously, the typical babyface is trying to plead.
Yeah, he's like, oh, please,
and then gets his
keeps hold of the arm, ripcord clothesline, just absolutely
brutal.
Brilliant.
And obviously, like we said, Judgment Day win the end because Finn Balor's there laughing his ass off.
Finn Balor is so good. Just the face he was making, just absolutely brilliant. I mean, I hope the feud, though, I don't want it to be that Rey Mysterio is fighting Dominic.
Well, it's Edge versus Dom next
Yeah.
Monday, which we do know.
I know, but like it seems like they're going to build to like, oh, Ray's going to fight Dominic at Extreme Rules. It's like I don't need to see a dad beating up his own son. In any case, I certainly
See at
don't need to see
WrestleMania,
Rey
he can do this.
I don't need to see Rey Mysterio do that. I was trying to think. The nastiest thing I've seen Rey Mysterio do in a WWE ring was hit Kane with a stop sign, and maybe the sort of tornado DDT on the outside to Chavo Guerrero. That sort of stuff, little things where you're like, "Oh, that was harsh," but like Rey Mysterio gets such a brutal beating all the time that you're like, "Yeah, okay, that was more clever than just brutal." Can you honestly tell me? Remember when Rey Mysterio came out with a lead pipe on Brock Lesnar? It was more like, "No, I'm defending my son." It's that sort of thing. You honestly tell me, like Rey Mysterio, like a black mask, he tried to take Seth's eye out. He was forced into doing that, I will say, bro. He was sort of. He had to win the match. It was all about the win.
Did you honestly just say it's to take the win? You had to take.
It was all about the win. Wins and losses matter.
Check you going full on like heel turn now. Oh, it's all about the result. Check you. The result is more.
It's all about the result. Results based. But yeah,
Shocking.
I can't see Rey Mysterio as this sort of guy who's going to stand over his son like fucking his son and just like yeah, that's what you get. It's like no, Rey Mysterio isn't that to me, and I'm not ready to see Rey Mysterio looking heelish. Because even in the eye for an eye match, Rey Mysterio didn't look like the heel. I mean, okay, I watched about 30% of the eye for an eye match because I'm such a baby, and I just was looking away, like, okay, just tell me when his eye's out, and I'm just gonna not look.
you mean the black covering on his mask? We won't go there.
I know.
I want to see him wrap a steel chair around his head. I really want Dominic to stand there and take a steel chair to the face.
Well, I mean, then he's been a good heel, isn't he? But yeah, I mean, in terms of what it means for the feud, I just want it to be Edge beating Dominic Mysterio. I want it to be like Rey Mysterio's like I can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
He's my son and he's not going to listen to me. So but yeah, I don't really want to see Rey Mysterio up his own son.
No, definitely. Right. 2 more and then we're done.
Yeah, 2 more matches. The next match was heated, for sure. This match was a lot of fun, I thought. Probably, I don't know, probably second best match of the night. I said it was going to be the best match of the night. Did not anticipate Gunther and Sheamus doing what they did. But you had, obviously, Riddle, who the fans are into, but when you're in there and you're going up against a force of just such charisma like Seth Rollins, of course Seth was over. He was still the heel in the match, but he was over. And the crowd
Completely
seemed to favour Seth more than Riddle.
And it says all that everybody was just chanting in like an orchestra.
Well, Seth's over. And anything that he does, it's like if you get the right song, if you get the right thing for people to chant, they're gonna chant it. Like chants can be made out of anything. But the fact that people sort of sing along to that Seth part of the music, Riddle doesn't really have anything like that you sort of can latch onto, and the crowd could really chant it. So all it meant was when Seth was on top, Cardiff were serenading him, and it made it seem like we were on Seth's side.
Yeah, the heel definitely was the babyface that night.
Yeah, it's Bizarro World.
Definitely. I'll be 2 seconds.
Yeah, that's all right. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know what you guys thought in the comments. Like, if you were there or if you were watching on TV, how do you feel Seth Rollins came across? Because, like, obviously they did the interview with his name escapes me. Did that interview where he was basically like, Matt Riddle was sort of body shaming my wife and like other people as well. Well, Matt Riddle's ex-wife was doing it, but like Riddle obviously took at the time his wife's corner. Were they already trying to build it in a way where, like, okay, Seth Rollins is actually the good guy here, or at least that Riddle isn't as pure a babyface as we first thought, or as he looked on Raw, and that sort of thing that Seth Rollins said was that kind of, trying to change the crowd's perspective on it a little bit, maybe trying to engineer, if not a double turn, then at least that sort of understanding where you're like, yeah, okay, Seth's definitely the heel, but I hope he's sort of in he's kind of in the right, so I hope he wins in a way. Just looking at some questions while Reece is away. I hope they don't give us Braun versus Omos all the time. No, we definitely don't want that. Um, Braun Strowman being back's interesting. You wonder what he's going to do. I mean, you got to imagine there'll be something for him to do at Extreme Rules. Might involve Roman Reigns. Might involve a returning Bray Wyatt. So we'll find out in terms of that. I was just dealing while you were away, Reece, just dealing with the Braun versus Omos comment. We certainly don't want to see that.
No, definitely not. I'm just we'll do the main event, and obviously I do unfortunately need to go.
No, that's fine. So
But
the
overall,
main event then. So I'll
it was
let you
perfect.
lead on this.
It was just sheer perfect.
Yeah.
The way it was done, organized, the interference, choreographed perfectly. It was just sheer perfection the whole way through. I don't think there's any fault to it.
I think it was your classic Roman Reigns main event because once again Roman Reigns needs all the smoke and mirrors in the world, and we've sort of become accustomed to it.
Mm-hmm.
You needed the fake cash in. You needed the third Uso, as he sort of was in Solo Sikoa. You needed all of that, and you needed Tyson Fury, Austin Theory, because you need all of this around a Roman Reigns match because he's not the most he's not having this sort of high energy match. And to be fair, Drew McIntyre, it wasn't the case. Obviously, they had a stinking match at WrestleMania a few years back.
Yeah.
Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre. I think it was 35. They had an absolute stinker of a match, and so they knew that they needed to put all this stuff around it. It's like when Roman fought Brock at SummerSlam, and they needed to put all those things in there.
Exactly.
But if you know you're getting a Roman Reigns main event, you're getting a Roman Reigns main event. I thought the crowd were absolutely brilliant. The fact that sing-along bit at the end wasn't just for the fans was a little odd, but I'm hearing reports that apparently they just forgot to put the cameras off.
I heard it was supposed to be not part of it, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I thought the main event was great. Obviously, Cardiff right on Drew McIntyre's side. I thought they'd done it. I thought it was over, and then the ref got pulled out, but I didn't quite see that because I already thought it was a 3, and I did that classic thing. It's like celebrating a goal before the VAR check happens,
Yeah.
So celebrating the title win before you see that the referee's been pulled out. But it was that sort of thing. Roman Reigns' reign continues. Obviously, the bloodline is bigger and badder now as they build it. So, we'll see where it's going. I mean, who do you think's next for the Tribal Chief? Do you think they continue with McIntyre? Do you think a certain Braun Strowman?
I think he'd be a good shout, but I don't know because he's not even going to be at Extreme Rules because he's injured. So I haven't got a clue.
Is that air quotes injured, or is he actually injured?
No, he is injured apparently. Yeah.
Well,
he's taking that
the
break.
only thing you do there is vacate the belt, and you have Drew McIntyre versus Karrion Kross at Extreme Rules. Winner takes the Undisputed Championship. But that
That'd
would
be
be
nice.
in my dream world. And sadly, you don't always get what you want. And the Cardiff main event was a reminder that, yeah, you've had your moment, but your moment was the show. And your moment is not going to be that your home country boy is going to win the big one, even though I thought he had. But absolutely phenomenal. If you do come back to do more Clash, WWE, if you want Clash at the Castle too, there is a castle in Edinburgh. Just saying. And I think Edinburgh might be slightly better suited to holding an event like that. I don't know, though. Obviously, Murrayfield's there, so it would
True.
also mean that I'm not in the car for 8 hours on the way there and on the way back. But yeah, so if you're going to do Clash at the Castle again, that would be my advice. Just a little closer to home.
Yeah.
But
I prefer
it
that.
was absolutely great having WWE back in the UK for one of these premium live events, as they call them, or pay-per-views, as we call them.
Yeah.
And we just hope that they come back. You know, don't wait another 30 years because the UK missed you. I hope Cardiff showed that.
I think
And
it
I hope
certainly
the
did.
reaction was enough. And we will see more UK shows with stakes, even if they come and do Raw and SmackDown in the UK again. You
Yeah.
know, at least stuff with sort of stakes. You know, the UK clearly there's a massive WWE following. You couldn't escape Clash at Cardiff. Like
Yeah.
when you were actually in Cardiff, there are signs for it everywhere. The city's just buzzing with WWE. Like it really
Mm-hmm.
did just take over that city. So,
Oh, it was perfect.
you know, WWE, you don't have to wait another 30 years. Come back. Not right away, because how can we miss you if you won't go away? But build up another great card and then bring it across the pond over to us, and we will enjoy it once again.
Absolutely. Nailed on the head. I don't have to say anything else. This has been another brilliant edition of the Weekly Steel Chair. My co-host Eilidh, thank you for joining me again. We'll be back next Saturday. Oh, you're more than welcome. You're more than welcome. We will be back next Saturday for another fun edition. Throughout the week, we'll discuss. Maybe we'll do something different. We might not even build up to Extreme Rules. Obviously, that's a couple of weeks away. I'm thinking I'll keep that to myself and Eilidh later on throughout the week. I'm going to see if she's up, if she's interested. I'm going to tease it. I've got something good in mind. I think you might like this.
Okay.
But we'll see. Those that are watching, like, share, and subscribe. Of course, it'd be most appreciated. And second of all, if you're enjoying this content, if anything, don't do what Bulldog was about to do. Just saying. Thanks, guys. See you later.
See ya.